previous lifetime for a company, I was their director of technology. That means, but I still do that now. I design all the technology
Uh, uh,
infrastructure
um,
for building systems.
I wish you had given us a heads up on this. We're on. Greg, hold on a minute, guys. All right, make I just run through one brief introduction and monologue here. Right? We're on. Greetings and welcome to our weekly podcast. We do this every Wednesday evening at 7 p.m. Belize time. We're 2 hours ahead of the West Coast and 1 hour behind the East Coast. My name is G. Michael Reed, and I am the chairman designate. We feature a three-member panel each week with the well-informed and experienced Joe Cohen, Belize City, and Mr. Gregory Morrison bringing his well-researched input from Los Angeles. The show is hosted and facilitated by recording artist and community activist Clinton Young in New York City. Each week, we bring you guests whom we engage in stimulating conversation with a view towards educating, elucidating, and illuminating as it pertains to current and relative affairs. For the most part, we try to stick to facts, but will on occasion proffer opinions. We try or endeavor best to make it clear that during those times, it is just that, an opinion. We welcome views from our audience and encourage viewers to participate by sending comments, questions, and suggestions. We ask you to like our show, subscribe, and to support us in whatever way possible. We are non-profit in every sense of the word. We're governed by Robert's Rules of Order, and we try our best to establish proper decorum. Apart from Robert's rules, there is basically one other rule. You may speak until you make your point. You cannot speak until you convince everyone that your point is validated. Many attach endless addendums, making sensible discussion difficult. So we ask that you be concise and precise, make your point, and that's it. Um, Sensible people, I believe, recognize good sense when they see it, and it becomes unproductive and unreasonable for one to persist and believe after a point is made. With that in mind, and with no further ado, allow me to introduce the other members of our panel. Gregory Morrison from Los Angeles is on. Joe is not on. We have a couple of wonderful guests on this evening. Of course, one is Mario. Mario, Rene is not on yet for whatever reason. Rene, is Rene on? CY, are you there? Um, anyway, we also have Lisa Castanedas with us this evening. The Rene was supposed to be coming on to discuss a matter that happened with a young man from Belize City, a cyclist. His name is what's the guy's name? Gregory, help me here. Um,
I'm sorry.
he lost a hand in an accident. He's a cyclist.
Oh, yes, I did hear about this story, and he was trying to continue his riding program and was looking for some fundraising to get
Right.
some
He
orthopedic.
was
Yeah.
Go ahead. He was getting a prosthetic arm.
Hmm.
Unfortunately, something went awry. Monies apparently went missing. So we're trying to get some opinion on that. Rene is not on for whatever reason. It is the weekend of Garifuna Settlement Day coming up. We wanted Rene's input also on the Garifuna situation and what is going on there. We I'm not sure is there. Hi, Deidre. Deidre is with us now. Good evening. The Maya Rights Matter down south is also a big issue, and maybe we could jump right off into that. Um, I believe Rene
We're
will be
getting a
on.
little You're getting a little squeaky sound. I don't know where it's coming
I
from.
believe that's coming from CY's side.
Okay.
CY, you got that mute now? Yeah. The Mayan rights issue in itself, I believe, is a topic that can take up the entire show. There's
We,
Rene. A pleasure, Rene. Hi, good evening. How are you?
Good evening. Good evening. Can you hear me?
We can
yes.
hear you quite clear,
Thank you.
and see you quite well.
Awesome.
Yeah. allow me to introduce Mr. Gregory Morrison, who is another standing member of the panel. We have Mario Lara, a very well respected opinion also. He is with us this evening. Deidre is on the show, on standby. We have a full panel this evening. And Lisa is also with us this evening. Renee, make we jump off first into the cyclists. And I mean the one of the senior moments, a block. I know the fellow well.
Mm-hmm.
What's his name again?
Marlon Castillo.
Marlon Castillo. How could I forget that name? Right. Marlon, there were some fundraising efforts on the way. There's been some mess up in that in some way. You want to fill us in on that as far as the facts as you know it?
Okay. Good evening, everybody, and thanks for the opportunity to join you this evening. Renee Nunes, and I reside in Pennsylvania on the border, Pennsylvania with Jersey on one side, Pennsylvania with upstate New York on the other side. I'm an hour and a half out of New York City. So Marlon Castillo, who won the cross country in 2014, that's his place in our cycling history. Suffered an accident, which I'm sure most of us we're all aware of, at his meat shop in December of last year, and along came Project Jumpstart um, Inc. of New York, based in New York, registered federally registered with the IRS and with New York State, who um, who offered to have Marlon come to the United States to receive therapy and to be fitted with a prosthetic arm. Marlon arrived in New York, actually at Newark Airport in New Jersey, on June 10th, and was of course housed. There were some fundraisings for his treatment. Um, the fundraising included a raffle. Tickets were sold in Belize as well as in the United States. And the proceeds of that raffle, at least some of the proceeds of that raffle, was deposited to an account in Belize City, and some of the proceeds were hand delivered in New York. Marlon received treatment from a hospital and a service, uh, a hospital, and particularly a Dr. Barnes, who specializes in this kind of treatment. Um, and he also received, there was another company, and I don't have the things in front of me. Well, I do have it, but there was another company that was supposed to build his prosthetic arm after the fitting by this hospital, um, which was done, and that was the only thing that Marlon, or his supporters, were supposed to pay for. The cost of the prosthetic arm, which was a forearm, because if you know, Marlon was injured from just below his right elbow. All of that was lost in that unfortunate accident. The cost of the prosthetic arm is 4,500 US dollars. Um, and that was raised through the raffle that was conducted, um, and other fundraising efforts. Donors, Belizeans across the United States, sent monies to Project Jumpstart, or the principals of Project Jumpstart, to pay. However, later on, emails started coming from the hospital and from the manufacturer for the prosthetic arm, asking about the fitting for the arm, uh, and the funds for the fitting were never delivered by Project Jumpstart, and the email is pretty explicit. And if I could pull that up for you really quick, because I want to read it as it was as it was worded.
And this email was sent by who to who?
I'm sorry.
The email was sent to whom by who?
The email came from the manufacturer from
Of the prosthetic arm?
of the prosthetic arm. The company that made the prosthetic arm is Prosthetic Orthotic Solutions International. Address 100 Brick Road, Suite 315, Malton, New Jersey 08053. And there's a phone number for them, which I'll be happy to share also. But the email basically said, I spoke with um, the therapist Marlon worked with at Nova Care. That's the name of the facility that Marlon got his therapy at, Nova Care. And all therapy sessions were donated. No bill was or will be generated. To recap, Posse, and that's the Prosthetic Orthotic Solutions International, Posse and NovaCare donated all services to date to Marlon. The only item Posse is charging for is the activity prosthesis, which is currently being manufactured. Jumpstart Belize has not made any payment towards this prosthesis. There ends the email.
Renee, the thing is that unfortunate thing is that this being myself in a non-profit organization and trying to help people, this does a lot of damage, I believe, to the efforts of those who are genuine in trying to help people out. Is there going to be an arrest? Are there going to be court action behind this? This seems serious, though.
A little background on myself, and I've met Marlon. I it kind of it has raised the ire of Belizeans across the United States. I've heard from several persons. My personal background: since I left Belize, I happened upon this very this well-known company called TurboTax. For the past 5 years, I've worked with TurboTax. I've worked in the tax industry. I have a license to practice as a tax preparer for fees. I am currently in training for to become an enrolled agent for the IRS, meaning I can prepare taxes, I can represent people who have issues before the IRS, which means that you have to learn a whole lot about the American tax system. And I don't know who actually specializes in that. But to your question, G Mike, yes, it has done a lot of damage that I might even go as far as saying that the damage done is irreparable. I don't know that our reputation or image as Belizeans will recover from this. Um, I've had to do my own homework as to accessing some information to ensure what I was hearing is the truth. Um, and it's disturbing because one of the principles of this organization, it doesn't appear has the legal backing to be operating such an organization in the United States, because when you start a nonprofit in the United States, you have to register with the IRS. You're given certain, I call it privileges, that you can function as a tax exempt organization, and everyone must file a tax return. um, my information on this organization is that that has not been done. If you go on Project Jumpstart's Facebook page and on their website, they purport that they have been in existence since 2015. However, Project Jumpstart, if you go on irs.gov, with this, anyone can see it from wherever you are. If you go on irs.gov and you search charities, you will find what is called a determination letter. That's the letter that the IRS say, okay, you can operate this organization. These are the parameters, and in this case, Project Jumpstart was given the 501c3, which is a category for a tax exempt organization. They can do certain things and not have to. well, purchase certain things, do certain things without having to pay taxes.
This is
In any, go
go,
ahead. I'm sorry.
yeah, this is serious. Tell me something. How would you respond to somebody who say, "Well, Renee, is it that maybe you have an axe to grind with project start project and jumpstart?"
Jumpstart. Um, yes and no. One, because I'm a Belizean. Um, there's a way that, we can all get, and we have been dabbed with that brush. There is a lot of skepticism in the United States right now where immigrants are concerned. There is this thing that politics is stirring up in the United States against immigrants. That we're here to take jobs, that we're here to do a lot of things, that we're criminals, we're rapists, we're all those things. So when we have somebody operating such an entity and not doing it
Above
as
board.
by the laws, it's not a good look. Here's what happened also, that the people who donated, contributed in any way towards Marlon's care, had to return again and pay again for something that they had already contributed for.
Yeah.
What
Um,
has resulted from this is a lot of turmoil within the Belizean community across the United States, a lot of vitriol, very vile things. In fact, I continue to be attacked by emissaries for the one of the principals of this organization. And if you go on Jumpstart page, you will see who the principal of this organization is.
I'm
I
wondering, I'm wondering how we could help now with we know what went down, but what's the point moving forward?
um, the point now is for the authorities to do what they have to do. We simply have to wait. But in terms of people like myself who uh, continue to be under attack, um, I just have to wait. I just have to do what I can do within the ambit of the law.
so you are trying to get the matter addressed. You are doing what you can to make sure it comes to well, apparently it'll have to go to court at some point also.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah. This
but
is a small claims type of stuff, though. This is a
No, 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 it's not. No,
well, you
no,
said
no,
it's
no.
$5,000, right?
not, well, that's what
So
it
that's
cost, but that was
only
not was raised. How
that's
much
what
Oh,
money was raised?
no, no,
oh,
no. If
oh.
there's an article, and a very informative article on BBN's website regarding Marlon's trip to New York. There was a target to raise $30,000 in fundraisers. There was also a gala held on
How much
June.
money is missing? I don't get a sense of what's going on.
Um, uh, I don't want to go on record to say how
No,
much,
I'm
but
just trying to get an understanding of what
Ballpark figure.
magnitude of thing we're talking about. That's my
right.
point.
So the gala supposedly sold 200 tickets at $100 a piece,
Two
a hundred
thousand
US
dollars.
dollars a piece.
Okay.
And then there was monies raised. Uh, I know sufficient enough. The target was 30,000 US dollars, but sufficient enough was raised to cover the cost of the prosthetic. There was also monies that were supposed to be paid for Marlon's accommodations, where he stayed, where he ate, where
Mhm,
all that. That was not paid.
mhm,
Yes, where Marlon, the people who housed Marlon were not paid.
mhm.
There is other information forthcoming as we speak, as I
But
understand.
what am I
Go.
trying to understand? This organization, isn't there's a protocol for how money is deposited into these accounts that are fundraisers, and there's a process of withdrawing that money. Not just anyone could do it. It takes at least a number of signatures that sets up that account. And to set up that account, as you said, you need an IRS um, document to have the company release that money to you. So I'm trying to figure out what all happened that made it such that someone could just walk away with $20,000, $30,000, and probably what was their motivation for doing it when they sort of went into it with good intentions, and did this person had experience in doing this, did the whoever was organizing it with them had familiarity with this organization. I mean, there's so many issues, and I don't think we'll be able to kind of even resolve and touch on those.
You properly summed it up. You properly summed it up. What is the dilemma, and what authorities, I believe, are looking into as we speak. But it has visited a lot of unease across the Belizean community within the United States and even at home.
Please keep us
Let
up.
me ask you one more question.
Sure.
You go
The
ahead.
organization where the money was missing from, is it here in the United States or is it in Belize?
It's in the United States.
It's in the United States.
It's
Okay.
the
Hmm.
Project Jumpstart program that
Yeah,
is a fundraising
in the
organization,
United
right?
States.
And
Hmm.
they're claiming nonprofit status. You're saying they might not even have that status. So that
They
one, that
they
one,
do. They do. You
they
can
do have
see
it.
the
Okay.
determination letter on the, if you go on irs.gov.
Okay.
Yeah, I've done my own homework so much times that I even know the EIN. If you might want to jot this down
Yeah.
and take a look for yourself. It's 882471065. It's a EINs are public information.
So are they trying to investigate these individual that was in charge of this organization? Is that what you're saying? That
I hope
whoever
so.
authorities are? Okay.
I hope
So
so.
so a formal report has been made to whoever the police or the IRS or whoever it is that manages these, and the process just is ongoing. Is that it?
I believe, I know in one case that there is a pending lawsuit, by one of the donors,
Okay.
um, and I know from one other person that I spoke with, as I don't want to divulge too much. Um, uh, I know one person I spoke with, should be filing, if they haven't already, also in New York.
And the people that were managing Project Jumpstart, they're Belizeans, right?
One is Belizean, purportedly married to an American. However, search of public database reveals no confirmation of marriage.
Oh, I see.
You
Okay.
can pay a little money and go
Yeah.
on these
Yeah.
websites and search, and there is no confirmation of that.
Oh, I see.
We
Okay.
wouldn't worry much. That I understand, and I see Greg's point and the
Hmm.
concern of how relevant it is right now, and what can we do moving forward to. But you can keep us abreast as to what is going on. We're here every Wednesday evening, and maybe you could jump in one of these weeks now that you're introduced to our forum, and let us talk. Let us now move on then to other matters, 'cause we have a couple of very interesting topics we want to cover.
Hmm.
One, the Garifuna Settlement Day, and the other is the Mayan issue down south. And I know most of us are really eager to get to that issue there. Garifuna Settlement Day this weekend. You are a Garifuna, correct?
Yes, I am.
And a proud one.
Hmm.
Yes, wonderful. Now, I understand that 200th anniversary and I saw a clip by Andy Palasha that was talking about it and saying that it was in 1923, 1823,
Hmm.
I believe it was, when the bigger group came. There were groups before, and in fact, I remember reading somewhere that the British had laid out uniforms before the 10th of September celebration for the Caribs, of course, as they were called at that point. I
Hmm.
saw now though that you said something about Sertima, the guy Sertima who's saying he's giving a different view that might be calling into question the original story of the shipwreck that led to Garinagood, or the Africans
Hmm.
that went on to St. Vincent and mingled or intermarried with the Caribs and became what we refer to later as the Black Caribs.
Right.
Is there some that in question now?
So, for I think all my life, there's been debate about this story. There's always been a kind of skepticism by the by Garifuna people regarding the story of African slaves shipwrecked off the coast of Saint
St. Vincent.
Vincent and
You mean
intermarrying
they
and
don't
this.
believe it?
There's always been skepticism because
No.
there has not been proof.
No history of that ship.
Yeah, there's not been any proof. However, I was recommended this book by a good friend of mine. They came before Columbus, and it
Oh,
was
yes.
written in 1976 by
Yes.
Dr. Ivan van Sertima. I'm sure,
Yes.
Sir Joe Coy, you're very familiar with Dr. van Sertima. I'm
Yes.
sure you are.
Yeah.
But he puts together a story that makes a heck of a lot more sense of prior of presence from the 1500s sailors, African sailors coming and even describing the waves, and you gentlemen and lady might know the ocean better than I do. Sorry, I only know it from a cruise ship. um, but he puts together a very compelling story of presence. There's also archaeological evidence to support what he says um,
So
of Africa.
he's asserting that there was no shipwreck, that the African sailors actually sailed to St. Vincent and settled there.
So
Correct?
he didn't address the shipwreck story, but he says he to me supports the this thought, this notion, this thing that haunts a lot of us in the back of our heads, that that shipwreck story not quite add up for me.
But
Um,
why would it not? What is the skepticism behind that? Why would that story not?
because there's a lot about our culture that looks a lot like uh other um Arawakan Amerindian cultures of South
Creole.
America, um especially of South America and parts of the Caribbean.
Mhm.
My culture shock was when I first went to the Dominican Republic and Dominica, and even St. Kitts, and finding uh, going to museums where I saw displays that dated before. Artifacts that dated before this supposed confrontation
Yeah.
on Saint Vincent. A lot of the culture, the food, cassava bread, the uh, what we call the hudut and with the coconut soup. Um, in DR, it's sopa de coco, but it's the exact same thing. Mofongo on in Puerto Rico is exact same thing. We just
But
have a different.
you concede, Rene, that there are a lot
Mhm.
of dishes that seem to cross cultures,
Right.
you find similar things in different cultures. The story about Chatoyer, is
Mhm.
that in question? That in fact they had he had a battle with a British soldier, and there was a deal. The Chatoyer felt that no weapon made by man or no man born of woman could kill him, and as a result, he made a deal with this British, and that led to the surrender of the Garinagu. That is in question. Then you don't think that there's any truth to that story?
It's kind of the first time I'm hearing that version of it. As far as we know, and it's what's passed on to us. The story told to me by my grandmother, that Chatouille and was engaged in battle. We had some support from the Africans who were on Haiti. Um, um, and you will see in our language too that a lot of our words sound some Portuguese, some French. Anyway, that Chatouille was engaged in battle, and he was killed while in battle. His wife, Baruda, also supported him in battle, helped him. She was like one of his soldiers. For me, what it means culturally is that is the role of women in our culture, in the Garifuna culture, that women, one Garifuna woman kind of no easy to handle. um where it's like meeting of the turfs and agreement on our roles, and we're not going to interlap. You're not the boss of me, and I'm not the boss of you. It's how that story has transcended generations for me, in that Chatouille was this leader, mighty strong warrior who was supported in battle by his wife Baruda. So you will hear a lot of Garifuna women actually refer to themselves as Baruda. It's channeling, if you will, the strength of this woman who stood beside her man and went to battle with him. He fell, and she reportedly um, continued to battle. She even led the Caribs, as they were known at that time, led them to safety. As to what happened now, and this is where things get kind of murky, because what happens then as to why these Caribs were removed from the island, banished to Balisau. When you go to Balisau again, there is no evidence of anyone being on that island. It was described as barren; nothing could grow there. And then eventually removed from Balisau again and exiled to Honduras, and then we made our way through other parts of Central America and Belize.
Is
So
that
a lot.
disputed too, though? Is that disputed that in fact they came from St. Vincent to
No.
Honduras and then to Belize? Is that in dispute?
Something happened, because our people did land in Honduras. There is evidence in Honduras. In fact, Roatan, where the Caribs first landed,
Aren't there still a
um,
lot of Garinagu over there?
in fact, Roatan is almost, I
Hon-
would say, 90%. I was just there a couple months ago, but it's Roatan is 90%, could be more.
That's more recent history also, and it's well
Mhm,
documented. And in fact, the Garinagu was persecuted over there, and as
mhm,
a result, made their way to Belize. Now,
right.
are the Garinagu indigenous?
Hmm.
And if so, to where? To Belize, Honduras, or St. Vincent?
And because of the definition of that question, G Mike, I have my reservations about saying about using the term. I huh.
The,
Due to my reservation, I have I.
the term indigenous means originating or occurring naturally in a particular place, a
Mm-hmm.
native. We know the
Right.
Mayans claim to be indigenous to Belize, and we believe they are to, in particular, this region.
Mm-hmm.
If there's any kind of truth to the story, then apparently the Garinagu are certainly not indigenous to Belize or to Honduras, but to St. Vincent. Um,
And
in which case we can understand, because celebrating Settlement Day then would be in direct contrast to considering the indigenous status, because you're one or the other, right? You either came
right.
or you're from here. So
Right.
I mean, and I'm not questioning that. I'm just trying to clear that up. You
No,
see,
it's a fair question. And it's a critical things that I think we should not shy away from exploring and trying to understand, because we boast of a oral history that my grandmother told me stuff, which I am passing on to my children. These are hard questions. These are real issues that I feel we need to we
we
need
need
to
to discuss
confront.
it at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me though,
Um,
because first of all, there's no question that the Garinagu are now in Belize. They are
right.
Belizeans.
Mm-hmm.
Now, it's not a case like the Mayans that you're trying to establish a different section. You're not into the balkanization, right? You've
No.
assimilated into the cultures, and many Garinagu have intermarried, certainly with
Yeah.
Creole people and Spanish even.
Mm-hmm.
So and I'll tell you, I don't want to burst no bubble. You suggested that Garifuna women are difficult to deal with. I have to tell
I
you that
am.
women on a whole are difficult to deal. I don't know that that is unique to the Garifuna culture. So I'm just saying, no. But I think that, and again, we
I
in
only
partic-
laugh, but I am not necessarily agreeing with you, okay? Because
that's all right. That's all
yeah,
right.
yeah,
You have your
you
wife.
don't.
You have your wife probably listening, and I can understand that. Um, so, but no. Listen. We Belize are a small country,
Hmm.
and we have to be united if we're going to confront the challenges, in particular as they look at us now. Given the situation in Gaza and what's happening in Palestine, we need to understand that in our situation, for us to withstand any kind of assault, we
Hmm.
need to be on the same page and united.
Right.
Now, we want to use that as a stepping stone into the Mayan situation, because I saw a press, it was a meeting given by the Creole Council,
Hmm.
where, and what impressed me was the different ethnic groups that were there. You had the East Indians, you had the Garifuna, you had the Creole. And their contention is that the Mayans are forcing their way onto to a latter era in Toledo, suggesting that it is their ancestral lands given to them by the courts. Now, I heard a figure that alarmed me, that in fact they are claiming 75% of Punta Gorda. 1.1 million acres, and they're saying they have almost a million acres that is theirs as ancestral lands. Is this balkanization? How do you feel about this as a Garifuna person?
You know what? I feel that circumstances and history put us in, where we are. I am now in the United States. Things happen, and so now we're a nation. We're a nation, and we need to figure out how we're going to live, because I am still dusty on the objective of why, in the 21st century, that this matter went to the courts, all the way to the highest court, um, and how it is being treated now. But what would any group do with all that land, besides, I think, ruling over people?
And in fact, when that group represents only 5% of the total population of Belize,
Exactly.
so
And
there's lots of issue.
there has been a question if in fact they are originally from Belize, because we know they were removed and then they came back. So the almost a situation again in Palestine. But of course, theirs is that thousands of years ago they claimed that God gave the land to them and then they came back, and now it's trying to take it over. No, but the
Right.
Mayans, we have to be careful with that also. And I'm waiting for now the members of the panel to jump in, because 75% of Toledo are on latter land, and we know that the East Indians, for instance, have been there for generations. The
Hmm.
Creole have been there for generations. The Garinagu have now been there for 200 years, because they didn't only settle in Dangriga, many went to Toledo. So
Hmm.
what do we do with these people? And can we then stand by and just watch a group of people push other people off of land that they have owned for years, because the court supposedly gave them ancestral rights?
Well, I want to just back up a little bit. What the court says is agreed on a consent decree,
Consent, yeah.
which basically said the government of Belize and the Mayans need to go and sit and come up with a workable plan that will satisfy both interests. It did not say that they are entitled. The Mayan, to me, could go with a map with whatever they want, with 2 million acres, all of Toledo. But it doesn't mean the government is going to agree to that being the portion that they have entitlement to to set up their communal rights land.
As far as I understand,
It's not because you were there and may have sit a little bit, two people out here, two people out there, in an area that gives you the entitlement to that full space. So
as
I am appalled by the fact that what I've seen or what I've heard is that this organization is going around and demarking and cutting down trees and stuff in other people's property. that to me is setting a sign for dangerous confiscation of events that could result in people getting hurt or even killed. So
As far as I understand, there was no map taken to the court, so there is no map.
no, there's no map. The court did not agree on a map. The court
So that means the government could very well give them an acre and say this is your ancestral land.
that is
Um,
so. But I'm hoping that that's what I'm saying. I'm hoping that there's some agreement, some sensible agreement that will allow the Mayan to have a sort of sense of having some practice of their rights
Now, let
to
me let
Chair,
me bring
if I,
in Mario. Yeah, I want to bring
yeah,
you in, Mario, because I know you just did an interview with Christina Chuck. I
yeah.
watched the interview and it was very interesting. What is your take on all of this?
Uh, Before I say any my take on it, a disclaimer: I am not a reporter. I am not a spokesperson for the MLA or any organization. I am simply an ordinary citizen of Belize who's just interested in what's happening and what's going on in Belize. And given all the questions that I just heard here, I will say you can go on YouTube and you can look at the monitoring hearing of the last one. There about a month ago, there was a monitor hearing that the court we had the representatives from the government of Belize and the representatives from the appellant, which is MLA, came together in front of the judges to hash out some of the issues that you guys are talking about right now. So the information is available if you're interested in finding out more about it. And what my understanding is, after having listened to those monitoring hearing, reading the news, and then I reached out to Christina Koch to have a conversation with her, and I posted that on my Facebook page. And my understanding is that the Supreme Court and the Appellate Court found that under the Belize Constitution, that the group of individuals, the group of Maya villages, and under the MLA that went to the courts found that they do have communal land rights and that it is protected under the Belize Constitution.
Do you have any idea what part of the Constitution deals with that?
I don't know
Because
what part of the Constitution deals with that. I figure it's the same part that deals with private ownership and land rights and land protection. So and
I
then
don't
it
think
ended up
anybody
going,
dispute. I don't think anybody dispute the fact that the Mayan would have land rights in terms of communal land.
right,
I don't think that's a dispute. I think the
correct.
issue is, do you own 75% of PG, and how do you derive at that? And I'm saying not because you may have occupied a portion of those land and you may have had the perimeter of those area that gives you the right. And I don't think it is upon them to determine what will be given
Correct.
to them.
They cannot determine that alone. The government of Belize has the authority to put together a process and a protocol for demarcation and figuring out what portions fall under communal land tenure. That
Yes.
process is underway. It's and it's been delayed because the order was from 2015 and it's 8 years now after the court order, and there's
Well,
there's this slow
those things never go
process.
fast.
That's why
Land,
monitor-
even if you had land with family in dispute, sometimes it takes 15, 20 years, much less
sometimes, yes,
this
land
type of.
disputes are very, very contentious and very difficult. But what the last monitoring hearing said is that they have set a goal to get this resolved within 10 years. So they have
10
until
years from
April
2025.
2025.
So
to-
10
to-
years
to
from
figure this out.
2015, not 10 years from now. 10 years from
10 years from
2015.
2015, yes.
All right. Deidre is making an interesting point. Their rights are protected, as are the rights of all Belizeans.
Yes.
Now,
Correct.
but they apparently have been given some preferential rights in that they have a area that is supposed to be allotted to them. And they have been pushing now to get the people who have been settled there for some time off of that land because they want to establish their right to that land.
There are some non-Maya villages and areas, right, that are adjacent to the communal lands. And
Adjacent or within? Adjacent or within?
Probably, I would say there's that hasn't been determined yet, right? So the demarcation process is still underway and still undergoing, and they haven't figured out
But
how they're
who
going to.
give these people the right to go and cut
They don't have a
trees
right
off,
to do anything on their
but
own. The appellants cannot unilaterally say what is theirs. That has to be worked out with the
but I'm
government.
saying that's the contention. They're going onto private property and cutting down trees. That's what I'm listening to the news and to what people are
So
saying that
what
are
I
complaining.
understood from the last hearing was that some of the villagers from Yameri Grove were doing that, right? And the Mayans are out there trying to figure this out as well. But that's why we need to have a protocol in place that brings everybody together to figure out how we're going to figure out where you have historical documents and traditions that overlap each other. The government is going to have to be the ultimate arbiter in those situations.
Let me ask a question. Isn't this creating a situation that can go crazy? Because if you have like a communal land, for instance, there's going to have to be a group of people who will be over it. Maybe the alcaldes or the Maya Land Rights Committee.
Could be the government.
Well, it couldn't be the government because
It could be.
It could be. It
you
could
mean
be
and
the
the
government.
Mayans would have to relinquish that right then?
It could be that the government sets up a commission in trust and administers it that way.
Why can't they just say, let's designate an area of this land, this communal land area here, and give first dabs to the Mayan community, the Mayan people of the area. Let us cut this up into different, and let each of them have. And there's some Mayans who want that to happen.
But
they can come up with any number of solutions, but they have to do it in consultation with the folks who have the communal land tenure. They have to do it in consultation with.
Yeah, but not all the Mayan villages or the Mayan people support the MLA and the communal land tenure, and that comes from DJ again, which makes very, very good sense, because there has been, and I'm aware of that there is a division amongst they themselves, who all of them are not in favor of this communal because of the very mischief that I'm speaking of that could occur. You could have an authoritarian figure there get in there and decide, as I've heard is happening. One person and a wife, they claim so many acres for himself and his wife, and because it's communal land, he's saying, well, I have a right to this. And then when his like title is questioned, he said, no, but this is a communal land, so it's mine anyway.
So whoever is a party to the court order and wishes to remain a party to the court order, that's who the government has to work with in consultation with, and other community members as well, in order to figure out how to sort this out. And how
is anybody sitting down? Is there any sitting down as such to try to work this out, as far as you know?
If you listen to the last monitoring hearing, there were several meetings that were scheduled, right? And please go to YouTube and listen to the monitoring hearing, and then you'll see the government lays out their process, right? And then the appellant, MLA and TAA, have some concerns with that process, and there's a discussion that goes back and forth. But yes, those meetings have to happen. They have to bring all the community members together, and then they have to figure out how to draft the legislation to implement the court order.
Do you see any way out of this? Any reasonable way out of this? Is there anything you would suggest?
Mr. Chairman, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, no, Joe, go ahead.
Go ahead.
Okay, yeah, Mara, answer that, then we'll go to Joe. Hold that thought, Joe. Yeah, Mara.
I see two ways, potentially two ways out of this, right? Either A, we embrace the court order, we respect the courts, we respect the process that has gone through so far, and I think that's what the government is attempting to do. Maybe could do it a little bit better, and figure out what the proper legislation is and how we're going to set up a dispute resolution process and how we're going to figure this out, right? That's one way, and I think that's the way that the court is saying you should go, you must go. If we're going to be a nation that respects the courts and the rule of law and our constitution, that is the way to go. The other way is to say, wait a minute, we made a mistake. The government can say, maybe we made a mistake, and figure out, is there a way to now challenge the agreement that they agreed to and say, well, we made a mistake. We don't think that
I don't think they made any agreement yet. They haven't made any agreement yet.
There was a consent order.
No, consent agreement is an agreement to talk. It's not an agreement.
No.
Yes, that's
It's-
what it is. That's what
It's
the consent
no,
order
it's
is.
more than agreement to talk.
It's an agreement
that
It's more
talk.
than
communal land
agreement.
tenure
It's an
exists
agreement
and that
to
they will
talk.
protect it.
No, Greg.
Yes,
No,
yes,
Greg.
yeah,
no,
it
Greg.
is.
So,
It
what,
is.
you didn't
Wait,
need
wait,
a
wait.
court to do that.
No,
You
no,
didn't
no,
need
no,
a
no.
court to order
Well,
that.
all the court did was the parties before it went to trial decided to
It's
go
an
to the court
agreement
and
that
dismiss
communal
the.
land tenure exists, and they will
Yes.
protect it, and they will work with the
Yes,
appellants to define
that-
it and
th-
enact
and to-
legislations to protect it.
That's correct. That's correct. That when I said that, I meant there was no agreement as proportioning any land to as any degree to that level.
So why
was
are
an
the
agreement-
Mayans? Why are the
was an
Mayans making the
agreement-
moves they're making then?
That's illegal. Their actions is hasty, and probably because the government neglected to move the process forward. So they're taking the initiative and going now and developed a map and saying this is our territory.
Let me
That's the
get
problem.
let me get Joe's point of view, because Joe's trying to say something. Joe, you had a point?
I won't be making any assertions. I might have some questions to ask, but I know for a fact that it was only this week or last week end. There was a group of people that came together representing all the interests, and the group is headed by Minister Dolores Balderramos. And they had it on the television where they show a special meeting where the government has made up its mind with all the other interested parties that they will sit now and try to bring it to up.
Well, they didn't have all the interested parties there because they didn't have any other people other than Maya's present representative.
No, they had a cross section. I mean, the senior council marshal.
I didn't say senior council Marshalek was there. I think that person was also part of the litigant in defense of the Mayan land rights claim.
That's what I'm talking about. No. This is not something that they are litigating. This is to carry out.
I'm saying in the early litigation, Marshalek was the lawyer that was the defendant for the plaintiffs.
Yeah, but the point I'm making is that there was a coming together of all the interested parties, headed by Minister Dolores. And
was there representative from other communities other than the Mayan communities?
Yes.
I didn't see those. They were complaining about it.
No, they had a representative. I can't tell you whether they had a representative from all the interested parties, only the ones that I happen to hear about publicly.
Okay.
But I'm just telling you, the government made a statement. I listened to it myself on the news. Dolores made the presentation. A bunch of ministers, including the Prime Minister, was there.
Cabinet was there. It was a full cabinet, and
yes, that's right. That's what I'm saying. They say this is it now. They intend to come to a decision. So
the opposition was not there. So this didn't have the full representative of the people.
We have input from one of our viewers. So let me read this. According to our constitution, the government and the Mayans have no right to determine what area of land should be allotted to the Mayans without first taking the matter to a consultation process with the other ethnic groups of Belize and then ultimately to a referendum. Belize should not unilaterally accept the court's ruling before doing its due diligence and with all stakeholders.
That's
now,
correct.
all stakeholders being all the other ethnic groups in Belize.
And all Belizeans.
All Belizeans. That's one wide.
Mr. Chair?
Please do.
The last, I definitely agree with extensive consultation. I think the government should do as much consultation as it can in order to get this legislation right. But the idea that we would take the court, we will not Belize should not unilaterally accept the court's ruling. I mean, we are a constitutional democracy and we follow rule of law. And if a court is telling us that we need to do something, we should do it, right? So you don't take a court ruling for referendum. I think the government should do things in consultation.
No.
But it's big, though, Mario.
No. I believe that if the Mayan and the government, which represent the rest of the people of Belize, cannot have an agreement, then they need to take this back to the court. That's the only forum.
Is there an appeal possible from this final court?
Of course, if you
can appeal.
If you do your best effort to try and resolve it, and you cannot resolve it.
It would have
yes. If you can't resolve it, you could always
go back to the court. Go ahead, Joe.
Can I interject something here? It is my honest opinion, sincere opinion, that perhaps maybe the time is somewhat premature to come to these opinions that we are coming to at this point, for the reason that this is the first time the government was compelled, forced to act. And at the first time they ever bring together an official group to say that now we have to come to a decision. So I would think that nothing has been decided yet. The question I want to ask you are that if there was a consent order at the Caribbean Court of Justice, does not presuppose that there was, in fact, a decision made against the Mayans at the trial judge stage. Then they gone from there to the appeal.
Yes.
Court in
It was
Belize.
the government that took it to CCJ.
But the point I'm trying to make here, Don Mario, is that going to the Caribbean Court of Justice presupposes that they had failed at the court in Belize.
No, what happened?
No,
what
they had
happened-
succeeded.
They had succeeded, but
They
but
succeeded.
they never the government was the PUP government at the time. Election was approaching, and they never filed an appeal. So it went into effect. Whatever the ruling was
Right.
by Justice Contek had made went into effect. So the government then became the United Democratic Party government that took it to CCJ. So the time to make appeal had passed, and so the ruling had stand as it was. And that's why we went directly to the CCJ without a local Belize appellate motion.
Good. That's why I'm saying I don't make any assertions. I was looking to ask questions. The only one I can say for sure that there is a group now put together, and the government is working. That is the group now that will come to some possible proposal to the country. But I just wanted to know, indeed, what was the decision at the trial judge stage and what was the decision at the appeal court? Because what I remember well, there was some strong evidence given at the time by the federal head of archaeology, and his argument was very strong that the Mayans that are here are not indigenous.
Yes.
So
Can
I am
you sum that up? Can you sum up? You remember any of it? What was it? What was
That's
the
what I'm
gist of
saying.
it?
Is that I cannot remember, and that's why I was asking the question.
Archaeologists, yeah.
What was the decision made at the trial judge stage?
But you said it was strong argument.
My
I would think that
recollection-
you.
I don't think anyone disputes that
my
Mayan
recollection
right
is that
claim.
at the trial judge,
No, there was a dispute.
Yeah, there was. But I'm
And
just
the
saying.
archaeologist, expert, well-known, distinguished archaeologist in Belize.
no, it was
They took
Dr.
it
Awe.
Awe, sorry, Awe, not expert. And he said that the Mayans here are not indigenous.
Yeah, that's true.
He gave
For the
evidence.
most part, they are not.
So they
I
are-
think it was a failure. I think it was a failure on Justice Contek in his ruling. He went overboard and he overruled in this case.
That's at the
Mayans-
Supreme Court.
That's
That's
the
the
Supreme
Belize
Court.
Supreme Court.
Yes.
Yeah, but what
Was,
Mayans-
was there a failure by the CCJ?
what did he
The
overrule?
CCJ did not rule. The CCJ
I-
did not rule. The two parties came to agreement and say, we will go and settle this on our own.
So that was a failure. That was a failure on the part of the lawyer, Dennis Barrow, then, to not have fought that case.
He probably did. He probably had failed, but it's a good thing to come and decide. A lot of issues can be resolved through negotiation and such with the parties. But I think we took too long. The government took too long, and both parts, whether UDP or PUP, they took too long to kind of bring this to a conclusion and to a kind of careful resolution when they had the power and autonomy to kind of get it done. And so now it is this conflagration that could blow up at any moment in everybody's face.
What I'm asking.
Hey guys, let Mr. Mario
Morrison.
speak. He had something else to say.
Sorry.
Mario wanted to say something? That's what
No,
you're saying?
I was going to respond to Mr. Koyi. My recollection is that Dr. Awe did give testimony, but like Greg says, Greg believes that the judge made a mistake, right? But the judge decided in favor of the Maya, right? Despite Dr. Awe's assertions, the judge said that no, they have ancestral land rights. They have communal land rights. The Constitution of Belize protects it, and it was ruled in favor of the Maya. It ended up in the CCJ I believe, as Greg indicated, because I think it was the government that was not implementing the trial court ruling. I think it did go to the appellate court, Greg. I think you're
No, it didn't go
mistaken
to
there,
the, it did not go to the appellate court. It had exceeded the time to go into the appellate court. That's what I remember.
But
Okay,
I'll
there
go
was
back and look at it.
also prior to it going to the local courts too, there was an international body that made some findings and determinations about communal land rights, and
Yes.
and that was upheld by the local courts, and
Yes.
then it was agreed to at the CCJ by both the government and the appellant,
Yes.
and that's how they entered into the consent order.
Let me say something just to clear it up. I do support the initiative of the Mayan to hold government accountable, because when this case first brought, as Christina had mentioned, was because the government had granted concessions for logging without consulting the local people on environmental implications, on their economic livelihood that was in jeopardy with this process, and even their physical safety because of the way they were constructing and digging and doing road construction in the area that these people occupy and live and must remain even after all the logs are removed from the sites. So I applaud them for taking this effort and showing that a group of people can stop government from bulldozing its way into destroying communities and lives of people.
As Belizeans, not even only as Mayans. Our Belizeans
As Belizeans,
have a right to do that, yeah.
Yes. But they were organized and they did it, and they had funding that helped them do these
But
laws.
did they then use that to their benefit to exert their claim for communal land? Did they, because
Well, then that's the drift, because the judge context, when it went to trial, it became more than just to stop the government. Is that this is our ancestral land? You see, it kind of morphed into more this communal land rights thing when it went into the court, and the court agreed. The court agreed, and I believe that it justly did. I just think it went too broad, because I think it should have, the ruling should have been limited to that, rather than sort of imply that they could kind of get land in terms of how reservations are structured in the United States, which is a whole different way of how Indians in America got land. They actually had owned this land. They fought against. No, I know. I just want to say they fought and in some case won and signed agreements to having and treaties to having those lands. So I don't think that we could relate it the same way as reservation.
This is completely different. Yeah,
Mario, explain the difference between reservation and communal land.
Well, as Greg just pointed out, right, a reservation is established through some type of treaty with the state and that sort of thing. This wasn't that at all. This is recognizing that because of ancestral rights and historical usage and rights, that they have a different type of land tenure, which is called communal land tenure as opposed to private land tenure. That because of their ancestral usage of the land and their administration of the land for over hundreds of years, that they have that communal land tenure, and it's simply a different title of land, if you will.
I am a descendant from the Lagwood cutters of Belize. So my people have lived on the land and cut land and whatnot. Am I entitled also to some kind of communal land?
You can be a member. If you want to be a member, you can go to whatever the council is that they set up that will be administering the communal lands, and you can say, guess what? See my documentation here. Or you don't even have to say, see my documentation. I want to be a member of this community. I want to be a member of this, and I will abide by whatever the rules are that this community owner determines as a community. These are the rules for our communal lands, and this is how we're going to do it. And as a matter of fact, there are other ways of getting to communal land rights. It doesn't have to be ancestral. It could be. It could be. There are actually modern examples of this, and I found an article today that I shared with Deetra And I know you don't want to read the article, Dietra, because it's a bit long, but it doesn't have to be based on ancestry. It could be based on a number of different things. Community
Like what,
land
for
ownership,
instance?
community land ownership, it could be based on rural communities. This is a rural community, and we've been farming this community, and we want to form a cooperative, and we're going to own this
like
as
a
a cooperative.
village. Like a
Like a
village.
village. Exactly,
Oh,
like a
I mean,
village.
so-
Yameri Grove, the village, that village there could say, you know what? We've been this community and we've been here for hundreds of years, and we want to own it as a village, and we want to administer it like a village. That's
Stick
but
up
these-
in, if I may.
Go ahead. Yes, please.
Mr. Laura, you mentioned something, and I think it's what we have missed in the determination of the CCJ as to what communal land is.
Exactly.
And I think that among the people, there's been a misconception because a lot of people feel that it means, oh, my people, the remains or their traces of my people in this territory. Example that you started out with, G. Mike, of the Maya claiming 75% of Punta Gorda. I think there's been a misconception as to what communal land right and what the ruling of the court actually meant.
Yes.
I don't think that it meant acquiring additional territory.
Well, you want to put it in a context for us?
Can I complement what Rennie is saying? I fully agree with her. The problem that will not be solved right now, for sure. The reason I believe is that when they gone for the consent order, it was too vague. It was not anything too detailed. The court didn't give any direction
Right.
as to how this thing is to be done. So the problem that we'll be facing us at the end of the day, I believe, I'm talking with some of the members of it, including the lawyer himself, the senior counsel, is that we may have to end up with something very much like the Native Americans with reservations.
Giving them a reservation?
They will never solve it. What they
Even,
Yeah.
but even though
that's why I
even though-
introduced that. That's why I introduced
even though their indigenous status is in question, that
Yeah,
they might have come from Guatemala as opposed to just being here. Indigenous means that you've been here all the while and local to the place.
Yeah, but what I'm trying to draw, because somebody pointed it out, and there is some lessons that will have to be learned from the reservation of the Native Americans. Because when they had the consent order, they didn't even put to the court how they intend to carry it out, and the court gave no instruction. So what they end up is that if you have, just for example, 10,000 square miles an acre, I mean, 10,000 square acres, what square miles, or whatever it is, all what you would end up and doing is at the end of the day, you see this? This is like your factory. This thing will belong to all owner shareholders that are your communal land.
Yes.
And they will have the right to use it only for what they want to use it for.
So
And
none of
what-
them can sell. Nobody can sell.
Nobody can sell. You can't sell on
They
reservation.
will never
Yeah.
be able to
Can,
sell.
can you mortgage it?
I would
you
hope
cannot-
that
you
the
cannot-
government of
you
Belize
cannot.
does not
You
set it
cannot.
up like a reservation. I would hope that they would simply enact legislation to recognize that property can be owned as under communities, right? Under communal land rights. The government still have
But
sovereignty,
who's that? But
and the government
but-
should not give up any
well,
type
they
of
can't.
sovereignty
I would
over
hope
any
not,
of the
yeah.
lands. Exactly.
the
Exactly.
government don't
That's the
give up
problem
the-
with reservations, right?
No, the government don't give
Reservations
up any-
kind of have a sovereignty type kind of thing
no,
associated with it, and that's not
The
what
federal
this is.
government, the federal government has sovereignty over all reservations. State government may
That's
have
right.
some restrictions, but
Right.
the federal government have sovereignty over all
Yes,
reservations.
but all of the, I would say that I would not advocate for it to be set up as a reservation type. No,
No, I'm
it's
not.
simply,
No, because it's not reservation. I
Right.
don't think I
It's
want
not.
it as a
It's
reservation.
not.
But it will govern some of the land, the way land is treated. You cannot sell it. No one person owns it. You apply to the council and you get a piece of land. They
It's owned
determine
by the
your
community.
appropriateness to use that. You can pass it down to 3 generations, and after that they have to vacate it and start over again. Those are the
all of those
processes.
details can be worked out, but it's the
Yes.
community that has ownership property over it, and therefore has
but
to
let
be,
me there's one point in that ownership that I wanted to mention just quickly. The ownership, yes, will be the community, but there are natural resources in that particular area of Belize. They believe in abundance. If while the
Still
rest of
belongs
the
to the
country
government.
Exactly, that's the point I wanted to make.
But
Still
so the
belongs to
very-
the government. Even
the
your
very
private
point-
land, if there's oil underneath your private land, that belongs to the government.
That's
not
what
belongs
I
to
wanted
you.
to make sure.
Correct,
That's what
correct.
I wanted to make
But
sure that the resources are the property of the government. And yes, if you own that land and have rights to that land, you get a royalty that's paid for when they're exploiting
point
it.
taken.
Okay.
The very point that they use the Constitution to establish their right to that land means that the Constitution then is
Applies.
the
Yes.
supreme law of the land, and then it is the state that's in charge of everything. But now I'm saying that it's a thin line here, because you could cross over easy to balkanization when these people are basically suggesting that this is how we do what we want with this land, and the government can't tell we nothing with it. We could use it how we want.
Yeah.
They are dangerous precedent with the tri-sector, man. I know.
Yeah.
I don't see it working. I really don't see this working.
Well, Mr. Chairman, I am convinced that the conversation is more maybe academic, because we will never be able to understand at the end of the day, except.
Why are you saying we shouldn't have the conversation then?
No, what I'm thinking of is that maybe it's a bit premature then, if I would say.
Well,
that.
sure.
No, we need to have it. We need to have it. We need
At
to
some
have it.
point.
We
No,
need
what-
this conversation should have been going on 10 years ago.
Yesterday. Yeah.
let me tell you why. Let me
We
tell you.
like kick the pan down the road, man. Go ahead, though.
No. I think what I may need to, I don't know who all know about what took place at the meeting.
I know what I saw. What took place. I saw what you saw. Unless you have some inside information,
No.
Mr. Joe.
What you were seeing on television, you were only seeing.
Well, that's why I said unless you have some inside information.
Well, that's what I'm hoping that we will have by now. That's what I'm saying. That
No,
they,
I don't have any inside information.
they have put some guidelines as to how they will proceed.
But you're trying to shut down the conversation, though. I don't know why.
No. I don't want to shut it down.
He's a typical politician.
No,
You want to monopolize everything.
I try to figure out for my own self. Look,
Right. So then make we discuss this thing, man.
we
and see what we
own
can
a
do with it.
piece of land, the family members, right? You could own it collectively. Is that right?
Yes.
That's what communal land will be.
Yeah.
Instead of belonging to one person,
And no one of your brother could sell it.
right? You could have a piece of land belonging to several persons.
But let me ask a very
But
important
to me,
question.
if you have this piece of land in a 12-hour names, and that's how one way you could do it. You could have a company, a limited liability company, where own the land, and you got 1,000 shareholders, and the 1,000 shareholders own the land indirectly.
Yeah. Well,
I like what Bill says here, and I don't know how factual it is, but it says being indigenous means that the people were occupying the land before the presence of a state, and that's how I interpret indigenous, and take a little exception to what you were saying earlier, young lady, in that not buying off that maybe Garifuna or
Garinagu.
Garinagu are
indigenous.
Indigenous.
But she didn't say the word.
no, she didn't. She kind of backed off, but I was hoping
No.
she would
It's
say it.
because of the nuances, if you will,
Yes.
with the definition that
Yes, yeah.
I
Yeah.
Well, the definition is
Because
pretty clear.
because I also believe Creole is indigenous to Belize, because that's where they came together and create this Creole culture that we have, right?
Now, let's go about one.
The particular mix of however we are mixed up, however our ethnicity.
That's a part of
is.
that what you said already.
Mr. Gregory, Mr. Chairman, again, I am saying that there is a consent order. There is a consent order that they will have communal land.
Yes.
No, they cannot proceed because they cannot come to an agreement. Someone individual land, someone communal land.
But that's the question, though. What percentage of the Mayans want communal land, and what percentage don't want communal? Is it 50-50? Is it 75-25? Anybody got an idea?
But seeing, Mr. Chairman, that we agree that we will discuss it before we have the framework, I am saying then, it's just like you have a limited liability company. It's a legal person. We got 1,000 shareholders. The 1,000 shareholders are a natural person. And indirectly, they will own the 10,000 acres.
Yes.
And once the government has done that same communal land thing, then it's from there now the lands belong to them. They
Yeah.
go and work it. They will be subject to the law like everybody else.
Yeah.
But Joe,
Problem
again,
is the way the face say, the how is it we must settle this thing? One, some of them want individual land, some want collective land. Then you have a lot of private land in the area, which you cut across. And how they want to settle the private lands?
If you own private land, you own private land, and that's your private property.
Right.
Your communal land will go around my private land.
Yes, but what I'm saying to you, if they continue to extend it, they want to take over Barongo and all.
Don't get her excited.
Right.
Come
But
on.
that
But
happened
that-
because of the
but
misconception
that's
that,
not part
that,
of
that
the
people
communal
are
lands.
running away with. There is a lot of emotionalism, and I could understand being a Garifuna person, but I think the misconception of what this communal land means, somehow some people ran away with the notion that they then go to claim
Yes.
all of this because we were here first and we're the first
And
people.
we don't know that they were there. We
You know,
don't know
it's
that
the
they were
animal
there.
farm kind of syndrome. You know, some animals become more equal than others.
The issue, go ahead, Rania. I want to hear it. The misconception, what you were talking about.
No. The misconception of what communal land mean, and
Yeah.
and somehow some people ran away with the notion that they're more important than others. And I think that the government trying to be politically correct, both administrations, if you ask me, trying to be politically correct,
I don't know if
think
it was
I
only
don't
politically
mean- I
correct
don't-
versus
I don't think-
negligent and
I-
political pandering.
I don't think.
yeah.
I don't think they're meaning that they're more privileged but more entitled to the land than
Yeah,
the rest. Not that they're
privilege
better
is
than
titled.
Right, but
everybody
when you
else.
have people running with the notion that we could come and now claim half, a quarter, 3/4 of Punta
Where
Gorda or
you've been living
anywhere
for
else,
200
because
years,
communal
500
land does not
years.
mean you get to come and claim
They-
more than you
They
already
cannot,
occupy.
they cannot claim any land that they have not customarily been using. So they can't go
Exactly,
and
but
claim new lands
some
that they
people
weren't
don't
there
understand that.
before.
That's what I'm
But
saying.
that process has to be worked out.
Yeah.
that's
Right,
what
but
I'm
a
saying.
lot of people don't understand. I'm looking at the judgment. The first, in fact, the first 3 lines of the judgment rendered in 2015, and it says this is an
There was
appeal
one
against.
before that. There was one back in
Yeah, well,
somewhere.
we deal with
This
this
is
one.
the CCJ.
Oh, CCJ.
Okay.
Okay.
Right. It says this is an appeal against a judgment of the Court of Appeal of Belize delivered on July 25th, 2013, in which that court by majority affirmed the decision of the Supreme Court that
Oh.
Maya customary land tenure existed in all of the Maya villages in the Toledo district of southern Belize and constituted property within the meaning of the protections guaranteed in sections 3D and 17 of the
Mhm.
Constitution of Belize. So it affirmed
Hmm.
what
Right.
the court in what the
Right.
court in Belize
Had ruled. Yeah.
had
I don't
ruled.
think anybody dispute that. I don't think that's a dispute that there's communal land rights. I think it is the measure of how much land is to be given
And
under
that measure is limited to what they have customarily been administering through
But
the
how do you
alcalde
get-
system,
but-
through
but
the
you-
village
but-
system,
but
Some
but
people
what
don't
you- but you don't-
understand, Mr. Laura.
But Mr. Lara, I'm saying to you that some of the Mayans are saying that it is the whole of Toledo. That is some of their
but
argument.
the
Whatever,
government,
say what they want.
has to work that out, right? Just because they say that doesn't make
Yeah,
it
they
so.
can say what they want. So they got a map.
The point I'm making there, like I try to see if I could enlarge on what I'm saying since we are discussing. Toledo on a whole, ask yourself how much the only land they want to be able to get is what is still national lands. You can't get private lands. And what is happening to the area, there are a lot of private lands in between too. So
So
they
what
can-
hap-
So
they
let's
cannot-
go get past that. Let's get past that. Let's go say, okay, they could say whatever they want, but ultimately a process will have to work out. Whether that 100 acres or 1,000 acres or 1 million acres, eventually it will get worked out to figure out what exactly falls under it. All right?
So
Once we reach to that point, there's this notion that, oh, so the acres will just remain undeveloped. It doesn't have to remain undeveloped. The government could say, hey, I have this project that we need to come in. Let's work together through our protocols and through our systems to figure out how we bring this project here. A private developer could come in and say, hey, we want to bring this private development. They will work with the community and say, how do we bring this private development to bring into this area? It does not mean that 100 acres or 1,000 acres or 1 million acres will just remain for this handful of people.
Let me just finish off right now. I will don't know. I am saying to you that the two issues, we're strongly to face them. One, you want to try to work out with who want to get communal lands and who are individual lands. That's a problem that need to overcome.
But why do you give individual lands if this is only communal?
What I'm saying here, I'm just mentioning two obstacles that they have. The problem, if they get over those, the legislation and those things will be no problem.
What do you do with the villages?
Private land you could buy.
What do you do with the Mayan villages that don't, and there are some Mayan villages that don't want communal land. So what do you do with them?
Maybe they can opt out. Maybe they can give up their communal land rights.
Yeah.
So but you either have it or you don't. I don't think you can have it both ways.
G-Mike, if I have private property and I say I don't want this no more, Mr. Koyi, take my land. See,
no, let's look at it. Let's look at it practically. Let's say
that's not practical indeed.
Let's look at let's say you have a 1 foot square. Let's look at this. Let's look at this one way. You have a 1 foot square block, right? 1 foot square, and you have 3 2-inch square block on this 1 foot square block that says we're not interested in communal land. We want to keep our private land. How will they deal with that, with those within that 1 foot block that does not want communal land? They will keep their private land. They could remain on whatever area, or they move the boundaries of the communal land around whatever that area is, if that is declared communal land. That's the only way to do it.
It sounds like what Christina is saying, they will move them and put them in other areas.
No. You don't move people off their land.
Well, I mean,
that's trouble. No.
Well, unless they want to be moved.
Say you have a village X that says, village X, you know what? We didn't rethink this thing. We decide we don't want to assert our communal land tenure. We will just revert back to whatever it was, right? So we are just be a village under the general laws, and whatever crown lands were. The crown lands will revert back to be crown lands. We don't want to be part of this communal land thing.
Right.
They would give up their communal land rights.
Mario, is there an agenda, and what do you think it is? Say for instance, by Christina.
The agenda was this. It was clear. Gregory Morrison talked about it. When logging concessions were being granted, when cronies were being granted land, nobody was talking to the Mayan villages that have been using those lands for centuries. That's when people started getting organized. They organized themselves. They found some support, and they took it to an international body that said, yes, you have customary land rights. Then they took it to the court system under the Constitution, please. And the agenda was to gain land security. That was the agenda, was to gain land security, to make sure that, you know what, 100 years from now, when we had to look back, we had to live behind the big hotels, they try to figure out where to live. The agenda was to get land security.
Yeah,
that's what
the truth is, I don't have any problem with the communal land and giving a portion of an area for the customary ancestral practices. My concern is about the area of the land and how it impacts other communities and other individuals that own private land within the realm of those areas that are identified as communal land or to be identified. So and the concern I have,
just like any neighbors, right? I have private land, you have private land. You blast your radio early in the morning and wake me up early in the morning. I will have to work with you to figure out how we could be good neighbors to each other. So I think the communal landowners and the other neighbors around will have to figure out how they can be good neighbors to each other. And the government has a role to play in figuring out, here are the ground rules. Here's the legislation that we're putting in place. Here are the conflict resolution processes that we have in place. When you have a conflict, you bring it to this tribunal, or you bring it to this court, or you bring it to this system. That's what governing means. That's what governing does. And if you listen to the monitor hearing from a month ago, that's exactly what the judges told the government of Belize. You have to govern. You have to implement this court order and put systems in place that will help to resolve these conflicts and
Tell me
help
something,
people be good
Mario.
neighbors with each other.
Tell me something, because we know the difference between the Mayans that want it and the Mayans that don't. What about the people of Belize, the rest of us, the other ethnic groups? Do they have a say in as far as what is going to happen here or what should happen there, or do they have nothing to say about it?
They had a say, they have a say, and they will continue to have a say. They elected the government, right? They elected the government that went all the way to the CCJ and did this. We are going through constitutional reform right now. They should be consulting with the government to say what the legislation should look like in order to implement this conflict resolution
I think
process.
that's too sophisticated for this.
People need to be involved. People need to educate themselves and participate in the process. Democracy is not a spectator sport. You have to educate yourself. You have to talk to your representative. You have to be involved and shape how decisions are made.
You said we're having constitutional reforms. Isn't that on the back burner? Has not been pushed way back? Is that still happening?
The money they should have spent on addressing the land rights issue, they wasted on constitutional reform that nobody asked for, nobody wanted, and now the government, when they find that they would have to do what what the people want and not what they were thinking, they are slowing that process.
So you mean they already spent some of the money?
Mm-hmm.
No, they've spent I think probably like 5 million or so was allocated for the constitutional reform
to do what
process.
What does that money go to?
They haven't spent 5 million.
Well, it was 3 million. I just exaggerated.
Even so,
it was $3 million they had put aside.
That goes to who? The facilitators,
it goes to the whole process of the panel they created, the whatever structure, the offices they had, the
buying coffee and
buying coffee, donuts, whatever they were going to do with it. They had allocated like $3 million for the constitutional reform.
The diaspora group that helped with some outreach didn't get a dime, by the way.
I want to get a bulk of the money. Stop it.
That wasn't that.
Hey, that money gone just like Marlon Castillo money, Rene. Go ahead, Joe.
Why you go bring that up again and get me all?
Where to go, Joe?
There's a diversion, and I will divert to the no, but just let me try make a point so that we don't spend too much time in saying the same thing over and over. We all agree in communal lands, right? Is that correct? Nobody disputing that.
Yes.
Do we also agree that there's differences now between determining there's a difference between those who want communal and those who want individual? Do we agree on that?
Yes.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Do we also agree that the problem now is to demarcate what will be communal lands? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Mm-hmm.
No.
That's correct.
Therefore, there are 3 things that we're agreeing on. Now, which one of them you think you could solve now?
All of them. I'm optimistic that all of them can be solved. Not to perfection.
Not to
perfection, because there's no let perfection be the enemy of the good. Because I think Belize has an opportunity here to be very progressive in terms of putting in modern legislation to protect community land rights. Belize can be that.
Yeah, but what I'm saying, if you allow me to,
I wanted to say Belize already went and stepped overboard, and for the first time, had a ruling that, such as Justice Contact made in agreeing to this communal land rights. It has never been done in the world before. Big countries, Canada, United States, have grappled with that issue and have not been able to come to any agreement with it. And Belize did it, which I think it was forced down our throat, but we did it in that way, and probably we could make some differences, but we need clear heads, reasonableness to kind of bring it forward, not a land grab.
But Mr. Morrison, again, you want to take us down another road, and I don't say waste time, but let me come back to what you said just now. You said no part of the world has accepted communal land rights. Is that what you're saying?
No other place. I said the first ruling of its kind was in Belize.
All right. So do you have any communal rights similar to this one where they want to do in Belize? You don't have any part of it?
There might be some in Canada.
There's community land
tenure. But of the nature of
in the world.
Huh?
Well, don't you believe that the same 3 things that we agreed on just now, right to communal lands, differences between who own communal and who own individual lands, and thirdly, how will you demarcate the lands that will be communal lands?
Right.
So it is in those three agreements we have
Yes.
become the
So,
complaints and to solve.
Can I respond to you?
Now, let me begin to identify some of the problems which I say if we just try to bring everything together. Yes, problems begin because prior to whole communal lands consent, they were using the land with some collusion, I believe, within some governments for the purpose of exploring for oil. Lands have been used quite long, contrary to the whole environmental plan for the area, where they were cutting logs, cutting illegally. So you have a lot of the past which have created some problems in that same area. I am saying to you that, and that means to take it that it's premature for us to be going this way. What I was trying to do, if we could say what is it that we agree on, and where we believe we agree on, which these are the issues facing us, now we could talk about how best you think they can be solved.
Mario, you had something to say. Hold on, Joe. Let me hear from Mario. You were going to answer.
Yeah. So I was going to respond to the three things that Mr. Curry just laid out. Right.
Right.
Rights to communal land. We've settled that. We've gone through the courts. We're a rule of law nation, and it went through the court system. Supreme Court ruled on it. Appellate court. It did go to the appellate court.
Yeah,
right?
yeah, it did.
They
It did.
affirmed the trial court, court ruling, and then it went to the CCJ and a consent order. So the right has been settled. There is communal land right. Number two, the difference is some people want it, some people don't want it. Right. Well, the people who wanted it are the ones who took it to the court, and the government has to work with the people who want it to come up with the legislation to protect it, to enact it, to make sure that we figure that out. And that's how you solve that. The demarcation has to be solved.
Can I just, yeah, Mr. Mario, can I just, since you bring that one, can I just ask you a question on that one? You said the ones that want individual land, the ones that want communal land get communal lands. The ones that want individual lands, what you do with them?
They get individual land. They got it. They got it.
They fall under the current system.
The ones who don't belong to the communal lands, right? Do you believe by law they will be entitled to buy a piece of land from government?
Why not?
If they have settled it,
Anybody can buy a piece of land from government.
But not within the communal lands, right? I don't think that's
no. They can if they have settled and lived on that land.
No.
Before.
No, you can't have it two ways like that.
No. What?
We had to go down the course the right way. Mr. Lara, they help carry the right way. I am saying to you, as you come to a point, you don't mind I interject. You thought that those who own communal lands and those who own individual lands, that are something easy to settle. It will not be. Because you know what they were trying to do? Let me tell you what they were trying to do.
Even if you get rid of this communal land issue, at some point, nobody could buy land from government because no government land will be left.
I like the point.
So all you will do is to have private land transactions and exchanges.
And all the Americans and Canadians are buying out our land.
Another issue. What are they trying to do? Is to follow, because I thought we was on the right track just now. You cannot say that because I am a Mayan, indigenous, and I don't want to be a part of the communal land.
Right.
Are you saying to me then I will have no entitlement to buy any government land?
But how would that be?
Nobody's
saying that.
Exactly.
And I will go further and say this, Mr. Koyi. I am a member of Village X. I am a member of Village X, and I live on communal land, and I abide by all the rules of communal land. But guess what? I still could go buy one private piece of land over by Placencia or over by Hopkins.
Exactly.
If I have the money.
Exactly. So the point is
but the point I want to make is if you are within the communal land and you had owned a piece of private land, right? You had owned a farm or whatever on that communal land, I believe you are still entitled to your private land.
On the communal land?
Yes.
If you already have title.
Yes.
And still want to be a member of the communal land?
Yes.
No, man.
Yes, you can.
You can't have it two ways. You cannot have it two ways.
Yes, you can.
You see the problem is now when you're direct, when you go on logical way.
I don't see a problem, Mr. Koyi.
Yes.
What is
the problem?
What's the problem? Out, right?
The
What's the
have a
problem,
piece
problem?
of land.
problem,
No.
the problem.
I live in Village X.
No, but let me
I
get,
live in Village X, and I have.
no, man, it's a problem. That's one of the problems.
No, because that's your private property, and
Look
you
what
are
I'm saying to
still.
you. What I'm saying to you.
It's
One
a
of the
problem, but
problems.
it's not an unsolvable problem.
No. If you have private land and a communal land, you have to give that land to the community because it becomes a part of the communal land. That makes sense.
No. That
But
doesn't make sense.
then you have no
Look at you.
communal land.
So
You
I'm
can't
saying
have it two ways.
there are
No.
things
That
that we
has
think we
to
are
be
doing
worked
and
out.
we
That's
are not.
part of the agreement, right?
Let
So,
me-
if,
let-
Lara, that's one of the problems they are facing. Why?
exactly, that's one of the.
Let
But
me-
it's not an
let me-
unsolvable problem.
That's only one of them. But let me say something here. Let me if I may.
Exactly what
You know
people-
what? I believe, Joe, excuse me. I
Yeah.
believe that the Mayans are asking for problems.
That's
Because
right.
when you have a communal land, you're going to have somebody in charge. You're opening up the door for that same authoritarian, corrupt system that will come in. And one group of people will control all the finances and everybody else will be serfs. This is the way you'll have
No, man. No,
eventually.
the fact that
The,
people
the
will have
government, the
sovereignty and
government
that
could
they know
struck, the
apply
government
the
could
laws of
structure
Belize
that,
will
you know.
apply to them.
I was
Yeah.
listening and I was trying to stay out a bit, but I'm in back now. What I want to say to you, Mr. Lara, take this into account. The chairman is making a very important point. Let's say you got 10,000 Mayans, just using any number on theoretical argument or position. No, the 10,000, all of them agree that they're going for communal land. Fine, you could say, boy, there's no problem. But when the 10,000 get the communal land, any of them out of that 10,000 will still be entitled to go and buy land outside.
Yes.
All right,
Yes.
good.
Yes.
Good. They're entitled to go and buy.
They're Belizean citizens. They
Yes,
haven't lost any
yeah,
rights.
Make we go with it, man. Yes. Go
Yes.
ahead, Joe.
So they're
Answer
entitled
this.
to go out and buy. It means then that communal land given to them, they will be owning it together collectively.
Yes.
And then the 10,000 will still go out and go to buy government land.
Yes.
They could. If
Yeah,
they
but
had
that's
money.
not what
But
communal
that's their
land is.
private land.
That's private, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
that's a different transaction. That has nothing to do with communal land rights.
Mr. Clay,
You want to be
Mr. Clay,
owner.
the Caprio gonna Belize and buy one whole island?
Yes. That's
No
right.
one never stopped
No,
from buying an island. One
No,
man.
maybe that's why. Maybe that's why we need to look at
It's
true.
not as easy as you think.
No, excuse me. Maybe that's why we need to look at true land reform, because then maybe we need to limit the amount of land anybody could own. Maybe we need to make sure that the foreigners cannot come in and buy. I don't know that a foreigner can go to America and buy land, can they?
Yes,
Yes.
you can.
You can buy.
Yeah.
You can buy.
You could buy whatever you want.
I
As
see.
long as
You
you have
can
money.
buy the whole thing, if the whole country, if you want, right?
You could buy a
But-
whole
But I'm saying
state.
because of Belize and we have limited resources, limited land, we might need to put in place our own unique type of governance for these issues, man.
In
I-
That's
Mexico
exactly
and
what
other
has to
countries, they
happen. The
have
legislation
special.
needs to enact how communal lands will be dealt with.
Yes. Yes.
That has to happen.
And who will get communal land? Only the Mayans, right? Only the
Well, they're
indigenous.
the only ones that have gone to court and gotten the
But you're
communal
saying
land
that
rights.
anybody could go to court and
But
you
when the
don't even have
legislation
to
is
be.
put in place, when the legislation is put in place, for example, Barranco Village could decide, you know what? Let's own Barranco Village as a village, and therefore
Mhm.
we will apply for communal land rights.
Let
And
me
the government could either grant it or
let-
they could
let-
go to court. Go get
let
it.
me get back to that and answer Deidre. Deidre was wondering what happens to the resources under the land. But the government passed a law, I believe, a few years ago that
Yeah.
anything under the land
3 feet
belongs to the
under.
government.
Yeah. Yep.
I
Yep.
imagine that the landowner might get one royalty or something, as the Mennonites did in Spanish lookout.
Right.
They got 1% or something like that. At the end of the day, all the resources under the land belongs, whether gold, diamond, oil,
Yeah.
belongs to the government, and I don't see a problem with that.
No, that's normal.
Yeah,
That's your
because-
typical land transfer deed arrangement.
I think it was called the Vesting Something Act.
something
Yeah,
like
yeah,
that.
yeah, yeah.
Anyway, guys, look here. We got about we're gonna last part of the show where I want to get back into what I don't get back into. I want to get into a bit about the press release that was issued by the government of Belize regarding the situation with the Middle East, and they basically, well, they said they didn't quite cut ties with Israel, but they went close to that. They certainly recall ambassadors, expel ambassadors. No one got no business for do with that. Anybody have any comments on that? Any agreement? Any disagreement?
What I don't understand is what national interest of Belize is served by doing that.
Exactly.
Well, may I answer that? The national interest is that Belize is adding its voice to the chorus of dissent. I mean, the whole world is condemning the genocide that happened. We're not trying to get anything here. We're trying to give something. We're trying to add our voice to that chorus that is saying this is wrong. Genocide, we in Belize, and it was made clear in the press release, that because of
Right.
our position, where this could be happening to us, if it
Right.
happens to us, we would want somebody to
Here-
stand up and speak for us, if it's even a small nation.
So
Is
if
it-
I
is
had
it- is
had
it-
the opportunity to consult with the government, I would have said, look, you could put out a statement that says the government of Belize condemns the killing of innocent civilians and children.
No, they could
You know,
go
there's
further
nothing
than
that you can do to
Is-
justify that.
You
But
could
to,
is
go
it-
further
to
than that.
go as far as sever diplomatic ties
Yeah.
and all of
Yes, yes,
I
yes,
think-
yes. Listen,
Is it? I want to ask the question: Is
Uh-huh.
it because of the preponderance of Palestinian within our National Assembly?
I
that
don't
we-
think so. That
I
sounds
believe
racist
that's
to me. That is
that's
racist.
no, that's not
That-
racist.
that-
Come
that's
on, you need to
xenophobia.
examine
That-
what
that- that-
you
that's
need to
xenophobia.
examine. I'm asking a legitimate question because if
These
we have
people
not
are
done
all-
that. We have
these
not
people
done that. We have not done
Belizean.
that.
Do you?
They
you-
are Belizean, but they have family and stuff that are there. They have
Do
sympathizers
you
to that.
support African rights because of the fact that you came from Africa? Because you think
Yes.
that black people deserve a right to
I
have
did,
it?
I,
Has nothing
because,
to do with-
because
has
it,
nothing
it,
to do
it
with
has
human
to do
rights.
it has to do with human rights. It has to do with my family came from Africa and they have been abused wherever they have been. And so for that reason, I support the African rights where when they are violated. And I support the people I support the people in Haiti that our
Would you
government and
want
our
that-
foreign wait, let me finish my point.
Yeah, but not take too long.
Where the foreign minister of Belize have been returning people that have been coming to Belize because he says America says it will involve us in trafficking and all type of stuff. That's my concern.
Your concern is that again, you think that because we don't do the same thing for Haiti, is that what you're saying?
For Haiti, for
Right.
for Ukraine,
which is a
for
fallacy
Sudan.
It's a fallacy known as whataboutism. It's not like what about this? What about that? That nothing in those places ameliorate the point that's happening. What is happening here? A genocide.
You don't see the same.
a
500,000 people have died in Ukraine.
Duh. I mean, so is that saying, does that take anything away from the genocide that is happening in Gaza?
No, it does not.
And I am not I am of no Palestinian descent. I'm a human being that has I have children. So I look out, I think the children that are dying there, if only the children should touch us in some way.
It
But
touches
Mr.
all of us.
Mr.
It
Chairman,
touches all of us.
Yes, yes, sir.
He's breaking off diplomatic relation is an expression of his contempt for the breaking of law. And I think that we have to take this thing very seriously. I think Belize gone, not even maybe far enough, but I am prepared to support the breaking of our relations. What is happening that we decided just after World War II, when we begin with the League of Nations, that we will try to have the world being governed by the rule of law, just as how most of the countries are governed by the rule of law. No.
Well, Belize has a relationship with Saudi Arabia, doesn't it?
Yeah, just make a finish, and then I am saying to you now that if we are of the belief, and many countries of the world, 128 countries at the United Nations have said that there is a violation of the international law, and there is evidence to support it. So I am saying then that that is a very serious offense for what is happening, what Israel is doing. That's a violation of law.
It's not that I agree that what Israel is doing is wrong. What I'm saying is that for the way the government, the
We had no
two
right
former
to-
prime ministers, the two former prime ministers had made it quite a clear declaration that Israel
But
was
they
in
didn't speak
violation
for the
of law.
state. They
Yes,
don't
they
speak for the
did.
state.
Yes,
No,
you look
they-
at what every former prime minister, when they get up and speak, they're speaking on behalf of the nation of Belize.
They're
They might
former
not be
prime
speak.
ministers,
They might not
Gregory.
be speaking for the government.
That's what I'm saying.
They're
They're not.
speaking.
Okay,
They're
they're not
speaking
speaking.
for the state of
Is there
belief. There is a difference.
Can
There
you
is a
separate?
difference.
Yeah,
You-
yeah.
uh,
What is it?
have you seen how when America wants to deal with any major issue, they send a former president to go and tackle that issue in a
No, they
country?
don't. Not
Yes,
no,
they
they
do.
don't.
Yes,
That
they do.
you're
If that
wrong.
is, yes, they do.
No, they don't.
Oh,
Not in
oh,
not in an official diplomatic
oh,
way.
yes, they
No,
do. Yes,
they
they do.
But
they
Mr.
can
Morrison,
go.
Yes.
how can a former prime minister of any country or a former president, when he goes abroad and he speaks, he's not speaking as the president again.
He's not speaking as president, but he gets special. There have been many cases, and I
So,
can't cite them right now,
Yes,
where
yes.
president sends other president, give them a letter, and say, go and talk to this president for me on these issues.
So what
because,
about foreign policy?
because that person has been delegated as an emissary to go and speak on behalf of the country. But
Well,
he's delegating not at the former prime minister.
well, they got the consent. I'm sure they got the consent when they.
Your point,
I'm sure
Greg.
they got the consent of government when they spoke up as they did.
But you don't
And I
need
think
to
that,
consent
and I
to
think
it.
that should have been the extent of it, because
No.
when, let me say something, and finally, that's the last thing I'll say on this, is that Belize is heavily dependent on tourism. And I know some people will say, what about the money? What about ethics? The government has a responsibility to all the people all the time. And so they cannot just parse and say, we are going to do this in this for this particular set of people, when they disregard the national interests of the country that could come back and hurt us in many ways. This government has been vindictive. I don't know if you remember once.
And that's
when,
what you're afraid of?
It's not afraid. It's not afraid. It's not afraid.
You have no principle to stand on?
Belize could have made their statement without overly being overly dramatic. They could have issued a statement to condemn the actions of Israel in killing innocent civilians and babies without cutting the diplomatic ties and being overly dramatic, because they have to protect the national interest of all of Belize. Yes. Israel has relationships with Guatemala. America has relationships with Israel. To me, that was a step too far in terms of putting the entire Belize at risk. I mean, there's a lot of
at risk of what? At risk of
what?
For speaking the truth. For speaking the truth and sticking.
No, I say speak the truth. Speak the truth, but speak the truth in a diplomatic. I don't think it was good diplomacy. How more diplomatic
can you get? They told them that they're breaking the law, and they've asked them to cease fire. That's nothing more than that.
This statement would have been enough. You don't break diplomatic ties. That's like
why not?
Serious...
It has been done before.
But I think, Mr. Laurel, it's a question of proportionality.
Yes.
So if you believe, that's the point. If you believe that the violation of international law, which is underpinned by human rights, so you are violating human rights, and if you believe that the government is showing contempt for that violation, that it should just make a statement because the violation is not that severe.
No, it's not about severity. That's not the point. That's not the argument.
No, it's about proportionality.
No, proportionality of how we should have acted. Not proportionality of what they're doing. Their proportionality is obscene. The proportionality of action is obscene. It's criminal.
You are saying that the breaking of diplomatic relation was too severe and can be counterproductive.
That's correct.
I think it can be counterproductive.
It is disproportionate. Maybe you should have just made a statement.
Yes.
Right. Okay.
And what I also said, what the two former prime ministers did was, in my opinion, speaking on behalf of all Belizeans. You see, when they joined together, a PUP and a UDP, it seemed to me to have brought the unison of a national consensus.
But they're not the government.
When
the government
I'm not going to argue that with you, because they represent the government. When you are prime minister, when you are president, you represent the government forever to some degree.
That's
right?
not true.
But let me give you an example here, Mr. Morrison. A living example. When we were to decide whether we go to the International Court of Justice or not, the former prime minister under the PUP sided with the prime minister under the UDP and went against his own party.
Yes.
because
Yes.
the UP was advocating not to go.
Yes.
So
Yes.
to me, to say that, well, he's representing the views of the country or the views of the people. So in
You
that
don't.
particular case, the former prime minister was not representing the party in government.
Well, well, I think the government at that time, you know what was going on then. That was just political gamesmanship. Why Courtney and them went to do that. That was just political gamesmanship. There was no real honest reason to think that that would have stopped what was happening. They filed the case late, and it was not going to stop anything, but it was just appeasing to people.
What are you talking
Which
about,
case
Greg?
that I don't know. Yeah.
We were talking about when they filed the case to stop the referendum and stuff.
To go? No, no, no,
No, no,
no,
no, no,
no, no,
no.
no, 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 no. He was talking about going to the ICJ.
Yes, yes,
With,
to
with
go
the
to
with
ICJ, the referendum
about
to go to the ICJ. That's what I'm
correct.
talking about.
Dave,
You
who
forgot
filed
there
to
was
stop
you
that?
forgot. Of course, they filed to stop that.
Oh, no.
No, no. I think you mixed up your issues here. You might be talking about oil drilling or something.
No, 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 no,
Um.
no, no.
Anyway, that's neither here nor there. The point
Israel go and
is,
judge on the ICJ panel?
well, that's a good question. No, that is a good
You should have
question.
asked that question before you broke ties.
No, man. Why? Why? Are you gonna then bring into
I,
question the integrity of that
People are
I
judgment?
was
vindictive. People are
I was
vindictive.
being a bit facetious, but my
Yeah, yeah.
point was
I would
that
hope.
there
I would
are
hope.
consequences for your actions, right?
We
Yeah,
would,
yeah.
but what consequence would you mean? That kind of like the same thing where Israel did it, they punish the whole of Palestine because of something that happened.
You know
Now,
what Israel is doing? What people in America are doing? They are blackmailing students who goes out and protest, who people who share
and they still
links
go,
and stuff.
and they still go. You know how
No,
many
they
people,
people have lost jobs. People have
but
lost
and they
lots of
still
employment.
go because they're standing upon the convictions of their principles. All right.
I,
The- you cannot just cower away from things like this.
You
That's
think we
something
might have
that's
a
very
Jewish judge on
important.
that panel and determine ICJ court
Is
hearing?
that what's gonna? Is that what you're afraid of? Is that
what
what
was
you're worried
I'm
about?
not afraid of anything. I'm just saying these are things you should
Why have to
consider
be afraid
before
of
you take
something? Why you
action.
would say? Why you would not want to stand up and just simply say, "Listen, what you're
Because
doing
G
is
Mike, because
against the
diplomacy, you
humanitarian."
can make your point without being antagonistic. You can make a good
Well,
point
how was
without
that
being antagonistic.
antagonistic?
oh,
How is
that's
that?
That
it.
was in your face. That was we're going to break relationship with you, and we're going to do,
That is
and we have
sending
nothing to gain. We have
a lot
nothing
to
to gain.
gain. We have
What you are
stood
doing,
upon.
yeah, but what you all are doing is really diluting the value of human rights.
No,
Of course,
no,
you are treating
no,
it
no.
flippantly.
I'm saying put Belize first. That's what I'm saying. I'm not
So if
dialecting
it was
human rights.
Belizean children, you'd be
Human
concerned, but
rights.
not
You must
concerned
put
because of Palestinians.
yeah, you must put human
How
rights first.
No,
passionately
I
we're
am concerned
defending
about
how
Palestinians.
passionately we're defending the Palestinians when the Mayans fight for their human rights case and with their
What
with their
aboutism?
struggle with self to try to figure out how to implement the judgment that they
Exactly.
won based
What
on
Yeah,
about
human rights.
ism?
exactly. That
What
was my
about
point.
ism? 1 point at a time.
That was
No.
my point. We have our own little Gaza brewing
Right. So
here, and we are
Correct.
going
Correct.
and fighting
Correct.
against.
Because we are more humans than they are. So we have to worry about for we human rights thing, but forget them children that are being killed.
Don't
4,000,
forget, just
5,000,
be
Nobody's
be
saying
judicious
forget.
in how
So
you
what are you
protest.
saying?
We're
What are
saying
you
be
saying?
smart about who
How
you're
can you
facing.
do
You gotta
something
know.
like
You
that?
gotta know that, like Mario said, there are consequences to action. And
Oh,
if you
you
think
don't,
American action is benign,
you don't
when it
shout
when
your
it comes
disgust, you whisper it.
when it
Is
comes
that
to
it?
opposing them, when you think Israel will turn the other cheek and let this go in some regard, I think we are
You
totally
know,
mistaken.
somebody made a very good point. Somebody made a very good point. They said we are not the ones that are killing those children. We are not dropping those bombs. We should not be afraid of any repercussion. There should be. All we are saying is that we don't like it, and if you don't stop it, we don't want to have anything to do with you. I don't see a problem with that. If I'm living next door to a man who is beating his wife and he beats his wife every night, and I look out there and I say to him, my boy, not come over here, come beg me for no sugar. Me don't want nothing to do with you until you stop that behavior. I am perfectly in order. and you could get back all you want. You could
But-
do anything
And
you want.
I would agree with you.
But Mr. Chairman, that approach. But Israel never support Belize. He supported Guatemala in the
Yes.
dispute.
Yes, yes.
So I'm not saying a tit for tat now. I don't say tell you. They supported Guatemala for his sovereignty over Belize.
So here's my question though. I was searching the news archives as you gentlemen were going at it, and I'm like, what is the collateral, if any, of us severing ties with Israel?
Yes.
Have we
Yes.
benefited anything of significance in the past from Israel?
Nope.
What is the collateral?
Nope.
You know what it is? It might be personal to me. Finally, we have stood up for something. And if you don't stand for something, you fall for anything.
That's a good
I am
saying.
proud of my government for having stood and taken a stand that, you know what, this is wrong, and we condemn it in as any way that we can. We wish God
Are
do
you
more.
prepared for any repercussion from that action? And are you willing to
Yes.
accept it?
Yes. Why would you be
So
afraid?
so when
of what
so
we
when
do?
so when so when
Should
those
be.
little big white boats stop coming because they go over and take some pictures of some crime in Belize
My
because
boy,
some
what happened when COVID came about? Didn't they stop then? What happened?
we almost died.
All right. So, well, you almost die again. Have a nice life.
Well, you know, we pride could kill me sometimes. You know, we're so proud that we want to be so righteous
This
that
has
we could.
nothing to do with
sometimes
pride.
we
This
can-
has to
sometimes
do
it's
with
good to
dignity.
just be right than to be dead right.
This has to be dignity. Yeah, you could. Well, I tell you what. You could see it that way, and we beg to differ. I believe that it was a right move. I wish we could have gone farther. I wish we could have sent troops over there to help fight in Palestine, because
it's
this
kind
is
of
not a
embarrassing
war.
because Belize don't really have that much geopolitical influence anyway. So it's
All
kind
right,
of like
so
an
then- so
overstatement.
then-
We have
But it
none.
shouldn't
We have
ma- it shouldn't
zero.
matter. It shouldn't
We have
matter to you
zero.
anyway.
So
The-
it's
the-
just antagonistic. The action
Right,
was just
for no good reason.
antagonistic.
I
you're-
don't
you're
I don't
afraid-
see it
you're
as being
afraid you might-
antagonistic.
It was worthless.
Yeah.
Then. I'll
He's-
remove antagonistic. It was
He's
worthless.
afraid he's going
It was worthless, but endangering
Israel,
to the
who
people.
doesn't worry about killing 5,000 children or 5,000 women. They're not worried about that, but we are worried about antagonizing them. Oh,
It's
man.
not antagonistic,
Serious?
but I kind of find
I
it a
think
little
it
bit
could have consequences.
like
I
um,
understand, you know. I understand.
I
It's-
understand both of your concerns. I understand it. Because you to think about what could be the repercussions for Little Belize
Yes.
compared to Israel and the support he has from the United States. You know,
Yes.
the United
Yes.
States is aiding and abetting Israel.
Yes.
Right.
That's my concern.
So you are
The
saying that
diplomacy matters.
repercussions could come where the United States will begin to now take actions against those countries that went against Israel.
Yes.
That's what
Yeah.
they're talking about.
But you
Yes,
know
that's
what?
what I'm talking about.
We're going to
That's
be
exactly it.
on the right side of history.
I don't give a damn
think-
about history like that.
My God. Really?
But
All
we
right.
No, I
could have been on
don't.
the right
You
side
know-
of history.
you
We
know-
just could
you
have been
know-
a little bit more judicious about how we state
No,
our position.
Yeah.
You know,
We could still be on the right side of history,
Yeah,
but we
yeah,
don't have
yeah,
to bang with chest. We don't have
Yeah.
to beat
What?
with chest like with our like.
I
like
think it
if
was
we could do
I
something
think it
with
was some grandstanding.
I
It was
think-
some political grandstanding. I don't know that.
exactly what it was.
I am afraid I see a streak of yellow right down the back of Billy's one. It's a sad case. I'm really ashamed. I am ashamed.
No, it's not yellow. It's not.
but
There's
that's
no
all right.
cowardice. There's no cowardice in this
There's
statement.
none but cowardice.
No,
What are we
no, no.
afraid
I
of?
don't think so.
It's
What
not
are we
afraid. It's not afraid.
You know,
It's not
at the
afraid.
end of this,
It is concern for Belize and its
do you
fragility.
believe? Let me ask you a question. Do you believe that Benjamin Netanyahu should be arrested for war crimes?
Yes,
Don't you
but
think
not
he
by
should
the
be? Don't you think-
Belize
don't you
police.
Belize never say nothing about it.
Belize
Belize
police never
should
arrest
power
them.
in a corner because we insignificant and we don't want nothing to do. But we afraid they might say something to we. It's ridiculous, you know. We're past time.
We
I
have
don't know
enough
what you
problems that Belize for go mess with for them problems.
Right. What about this? What about this? Anyway, let us. Yeah. People.
I don't know if we have had a livelier more discussion than we did today, but
It's I really appreciate you guys. Mario, you have to come back. Renee, keep your abreast of that situation, no?
I will.
Lisa and Deidre, you guys are always welcome, of course.
We
I see
didn't
we
hear
had
much
some
from Lisa.
input for some interest. Jerome is glad. I'm happy that you joined us, and do that again sometime, please. And folks, please like us
We need to also get Jerome on the show one.
at some point.
Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a suggestion. I would think these two persons, that beautiful lady at the top and that young man at the bottom, I think they should become regular, not just guests, but make them hosts.
Point taken. Let's start CY. CY, of course, is the man and the control. CY, are you good? We out of here. Thanks, folks.
Good night.
Again,
Good night.
respect every time.
Good night, guys.
Good night. Bye.
Good night.
Bye.
Good night. Thank you
I
for
didn't
coming.
You're welcome. I didn't say much because I wanted to hear Mr. Lara's point of view, and with respects to the Israel and the Marlon situation. Again, in accordance with what Mario was mentioning, I think it's all about strategic planning. When you don't have strategic planning, you can make a difference with saying what you need to say and be direct about it, but I think we went too far by just expelling some of the diplomats. We may need them eventually. These are people that communicate. We can't just burn our bridges so quickly all the time.
What does that bridge do? What does that bridge do for us that we were burning?
Open a line of communication.
To who? To who?
To
Israel?
the world. We have
Israel?
not
To a
to
nation
Israel.
that
We
is
have
so aggressive and repressive?
No.
Remember-
I'm not. I am first to condemn killing innocent people, children, not allowing people to have food and shelter. I will condemn that. I'll be the first to condemn that. What my situation is that we as Belizeans, we also need to be strategic in how we deal with diplomacy. And I think we went a little too far by cutting all ties and not leaving an open line of communication for the future.
What future? We can reestablish those ties once they quit the genocide. It's simple.
You do see the conditions the foreign minister put for reestablishing relationship?
Yes.
Nobody elected that
Continue
guy.
genocide.
Nobody elected that guy.
Oh, come on.
But-
He's
but-
a foreign
but-
minister. What are you talking about, Greg?
Yeah, of course. Okay.
What did Blinken do in Israel? How far did he go?
Well, guys, I mean, we
Good
can
night.
continue this discussion next week.
Have a nice day, people.
Thank you, Miss Nunez, for
Thank
coming
you.
on. I'll definitely look into the commentary with Jumpstart. What is it? Project Jumpstart.
Project Jumpstart Inc. Belize
There
Inc.
are ways to report their inconsistencies with receiving monies and paying out funds.
And Better
So-
Business Bureau.
Right, and that's and you can also call the FBI is our friend, so that's something that you could look into. There are many agents that need a case. We can put them to work.
I'm glad you sound like you're promoting them. Like you got a little banner there for the FBI.
Well, you know what? I'm all about legalities. I'm all about justice. And again, if we're gonna be a people, if we're gonna be a law-abiding citizens, then we also need to be law-abiding by the processes that we take to get that justice. So again, if they're representing a nonprofit organization in America, we have a process of justice with nonprofit organizations.
All right.
So,
with that said,
you know.
people, have a
Agree.
nice evening. Thank you very much. for
Likewise,
your
guys.
participation.
Welcome,
Great.
Ray. Welcome, Ray. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Respect. Come on.
Bye bye.
See why raise that music, leave it for me.
Thank you all. Good night.
Good night.
They tried to commit me to slavery, use me as human machinery. They did not expect such bravery. Pull me dreadlocks, they think me crazy. My grandmother, her name is Daisy. Say young man, no make nothing faze me. Smoke me Buddha, watch me eye hazy. Me no worky Yankee dollar, they think we lazy. My days was numbered and dark when the ship from Africa disembark. I jump overboard, swam with the shark. Then dog they bite much worse than them bark. My days was numbered and dark when the ship from Africa disembark. I jump overboard, swam with the shark. Then dog them bite much worse than them bark. Have me standing in a welfare line, cause I am black, feel me no mankind. Move the chains from my feet, put it wrong me mind. Cheating me like I committed a crime, but I know it was only a matter of time before I get paid in full for my rhyme. Even though it was a tedious climb, I held on to mine like a grape to a vine. My days was numbered and dark when the ship from Africa disembark. I jump overboard, swam with the shark. Then dog they bite much worse than them bark. My days was numbered. Blessed is the man who walketh not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor standeth in the ways of sinners, nor sitteth in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law of the Lord, and in his law doth he meditate day and night. Glorify his name, me brethren. Glorify his name, me brethren. Let we come together and blow fire upon it. Let we come together and blow fire upon it. Don't they worry about your house, your pretty car, or your bling. Don't they worry about your house, your pretty car, or your bling. To the entire metaverse lives only one. To the entire metaverse lives only one. Me hold a meds and say everything clear. They say the end of the earth is near. World War III, nuclear. Keep an eye up on the eagle and the bear. Oligarchs and billionaires. Space is the next frontier. They want breed rarefied here. As I alone sitting in the high chair. Glorify his name, me brethren. Glorify his name, me brethren. Let we come together and blow fire upon it. Let we come together and blow fire upon it. Don't they worry about your house, your pretty car, or your bling. Don't they worry about your house, your pretty car, or your bling. To the entire metaverse lives only one. To the entire metaverse lives only one. Global warming have the place the bake. Tsunami and earthquake. Then they leave land, they try to escape. Ye of little faith, we don't know we're real or we're fake. You have to watch the food you they put on your plate. In the lab manufacturing steak, could I never float you